Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG GP Sydney 2018. I'm joined here by Philip Nicholson.
Hello, this is Philip.
And my name is Angus Mackay. Once again, we're doing Legacy for your viewing pleasure. We have Vaughn Schroeder on Pox and Jake Lawson on Grixis Delver. Phil, you've played a bit of Pox in your time. Why don't you tell us what it's about?
Well, it's about casting a lot of powerful black cards in Legacy. The small box usually features, which is why the deck is called Pox. You play a lot of the hand disruption like Hymn to Torok and sometimes Thoughtseize and Inquisitions. Cool. And Liliana of the Veil is also usually a big part.
We've seen a couple of times that... and some lists seem to have varied. I did notice that, as we see right now, Vaughn's just gone for that straight-up turn to Bitter Blossom, which is going to be huge for him.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen Bitter Blossom in a lot of lists. Is that something that you've seen in your times playing Pox?
It wasn't in the list that I played, but it definitely doesn't seem bad at all. Okay. It's a much faster way of closing out the game than Mishra's Factory or Curse Scroll.
Sure.
And it pairs up really nicely against other token makers like Young Pyromancer, which the deck can struggle with if you just draw a lot of Edic effects. Yeah,
absolutely. You mentioned earlier off camera that you think Pox is very favoured in the Grixis Delver matchup. What's your thoughts behind that?
So, pretty much all of the creatures in Grixis Delver are going to be weak to Edicts, or weak to Curse Scroll or Fatal Push, or in the case of Delver itself and Deathrite Shaman, they're weak to both.
Yep.
So really the only way Grixis Delver wins is if they draw Young Pyromancer or Trina Nemesis, and the Pox player draws the wrong removal for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they probably need to that to happen pretty consistently, and then if the Pox deck has Toxic Deluge anywhere in the 75, that just makes life even harder, because Deluge is a great answer to both Pyromancer and Trina Nemesis.
Yeah, we see a couple of Grixis Delver players opting for even up to 2 or 3 Trina Nemesises, considering the sort of meta where it's very good in the mirror and it's very good against a lot of fair decks, so... Toxic Deluge really cleaning that up. Also, Edict effects really clean that up as well.
Yeah, and the inclusion of Bitter Blossom seems like it would really help against Young Pyromancer as well.
Okay, this is a Dark Ritual off the top. This is not a combo deck. Let's be real about this. But
I don't know. Dark Ritual plus Liliana of the Veil is definitely a combo that Pox is very happy to be playing.
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually have this match on a previous video. If you want to go through our library, you can find it. We'll put in the footnotes as well. But in our own game store, we had Pete Furman versus Dennis Mullins. And Dennis was the one that you borrowed the deck off this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the mono black player in Canberra, pretty much. But yeah, that was a good match as well. But it did lean very heavily in favor of the Pox player. We're seeing exactly what you mentioned before, where we're casting Hymn to Torok, we're getting some good cards. We cast the Fatal Push that just immediately got rid of a Delver. Like Jake's not really playing anything in the realms of hand disruption or counter spells at this point. He does have that Force of Will in hand, but he hasn't really found anything. He may have drawn it off the top. I don't know. But,
yeah, I think he either would have drawn it off the top, or he would have been missing the blue card to exile to it, because I don't think there's any way he's going to let that Liliana resolve otherwise.
Yeah,
His deck is just not very well equipped to beat an onboard Liliana on 4 counters as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have Lightning Bolt, but it's just not gonna get there in this instance.
Yeah,
so he's gonna have to work very hard. He might have to swing with these Deathrite Shamans.
He might, which is usually not where you want to be with Deathrite Shamans.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see. The thing is, Vaughn's got another Dark Ritual in hand. He's possibly going to go for another 3-mana big thing.
Yeah, it could also just be him plus another thing is a pretty regular one.
Yeah, sure. I actually see a Sinkhole. I saw a Sinkhole before in Vaughn's hand, so that's a perfect combo as well. It's
shouldn't be able to cast. Oh no, it's an Urborg, so Wasteland taps black, so he can cast Sinkhole. That's pretty good.
Urborg crucial in this deck. You think in a mono black deck you would need an Urborg, but more often than not you'd absolutely need that Urborg.
Yeah, you're playing 4 Wastelands, usually some number of copies of Mishra's Factory or another manland potentially. And I've seen Maze of Ith in some decks as well, which obviously also really enjoys Urborg.
Yeah, well, just being able to tap, because Sinkhole and Hymn to Torok, and Liliana as well, these are all double black spells. You need to be able to make sure that you're either have an Urborg out or you're at least hitting some amount of your land drops, because as we've seen so far, Vaughn's empty-handed. He didn't draw a land this game. He's been very fortunate to only need 2 lands for the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely somewhere that the deck wants to be. It's pretty much in its dream position right now, where both players are top decking, but he has a Liliana in play. Yeah,
absolutely. So Jake can't keep any cards in hand. All his counter spells are turned off, essentially. These Wastelands, he could go hyper aggro and get rid of those last 2 lands, which I'd possibly be inclined to do. I mean,
yeah, it's
why
definitely,
not, right?
I mean, it does mean that now there's a lot of cards you draw that you can't cast, but that's obviously also just as true on Jake's side of the board. He's only going to be casting 1-drops off his Death Right, which is
fine. I mean, he can still, he only needs to hold up 1 fairy to stop this young Pyromancer from coming through for any damage.
Yeah, with 1 mana, Jake's not going to be able to make elementals as fast as Vaughn's making fairies. So
he's going to run out of fetch lands eventually. He's pondering to the top and he saw a Tropical Island, a Spell Pierce if I'm not mistaken, and I think a Gitaxian Probe. I think he's going to have to be priced into this Gitaxian Probe just to get another counter.
Yeah.
Pay 2 life, draw a card, make an elemental. We see an elemental being handed from offside crew. Makes it a little bit easier than the prize sticks. I mean, the prize sticks is good rub-ins, but it's a little bit better to have the shiny, unhinged, if I'm not mistaken, elemental token. Alright, we'll see what Vaughn draws, but if he doesn't like it, he just chucks it away with Liliana, which is what it appears to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't cast the hymn, you may as well just put Liliana up another point of loyalty.
Absolutely. This is, I'm not 100% sure how I mean, he's obviously doing it for ease of space, but putting the fairy that has Summoning Sickness behind the Bitter Blossom, I feel can be a little bit confusing for the uninitiated, but I mean, it's there. It's a thing that you can absolutely do, but he might accidentally catch Jake off guard and get that young Pyromancer off the board.
Yeah, that certainly wouldn't be impossible. I'd definitely be inclined to have the Summoning Sick Fairy out from underneath the Bitter Blossom, but it's also...
Yeah. I think as long as... this is Legacy as well, let's not forget. This is one of the formats where people have the most format knowledge. I think
most people have a pretty good idea of what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
At least a passing knowledge of what their opponent's doing as well.
And I don't think we mentioned this yet, but Jake's deck is very pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, Vaughn's has got nearly all From the Vault cards, which is very shiny and pretty, but look, Jake's matching him card for card on shiny, beautiful cards.
I think most people will agree that set foil is a lot better than From the Vault foil.
Yeah, look, some people will agree. I can agree with that, but sometimes you just got to get the foiliest card you can get on a budget.
Yeah, it looks like Jake attacked Liliana there, and Vaughn didn't block with any of his untapped fairies, which I think is a bit interesting. Happy for Lily to just go down to 2.
Yeah, I think that's... I don't know. It's hard to say, but you sort of give up is it really that much of a trade though? You're trading 2 fairies for...
I think he's so far ahead it doesn't matter what he does.
Yeah, sure.
I think
just soaks up 2 pieces of damage from Liliana. 3 now because he has to tick up, obviously.
Yeah, I just think there's definitely an argument to be made for keeping Liliana alive.
Sure.
Or as healthy as possible, keeping her... if he'd had the 2 loyalties, she'd only be 2 turns of ultimating, but I guess Vaughn has lethal attackers in the air in that many turns as well, so...
Yeah, I think Vaughn's probably okay to just give up on Lily for now. She's done very well. She's nowhere near ultimating, but I think at this point you just want to race. Vaughn's doing a lot of damage right now.
Yeah, Bitter Blossom stacks up pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
believe it's a 7-turn clock by itself.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good thing to put down turn 2.
Yeah.
And we're looking at Vaughn's Graveyard. I didn't mention as well, but the Trinisphere, I haven't seen this in a list as well. Is this what you've seen out of Pox?
It wasn't in the list that I was playing, but it's also not that surprising to me.
It combos well with Dark Ritual.
Well,
just like
Dark Ritual out of Trinisphere.
Yeah,
it's pretty decent.
Yeah,
I mean, you're probably less inclined to do that than you are Liliana because you're going to struggle to play your own stuff through Trinisphere on future turns. But also, if you're just in a situation where you're wastelanding out your opponent, or you've just hemmed them and hit a bunch of lands or anything like that, then it seems perfectly reasonable to be on the Trinisphere plan.
Yeah, for sure. It's just it's a good way for these sort of like non-blue decks to get a little bit of an edge on the cantrip heavy Delver and those sorts of strategies where you're playing as many sort of 1 mana, 2 mana, 0 mana, or even in the form of Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to make everything cast 3. And we're seeing them scoop it up. Unfortunately, Jake just couldn't beat that Bitter Blossom. Crucial play on the turn 2, as we saw immediately. But, I mean, I think Jake was spending a little bit of time doing the math in his head, and he saw, like, even with his Deathrite activations, he just wasn't going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end there, he only had access to green.
Yeah.
Which
doesn't quite do it.
I think it was going to buy him a turn there at the end, but it's really fighting a losing battle against a Bitter Blossom that's just going to be attacking for a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to sideboards now. I'm not even sure what Jake brought in, unfortunately. I think I saw maybe a Flusterstorm being pushed to the front, but unfortunately the cameras aren't exactly in the correct angle. But we see on Vaughn's side there's some number of Collective Brutalities, possibly, as you said, the Toxic Deluge.
Yep.
I saw a couple of Pithing Needles in there as well. That's probably pretty good tech against the Deathrite Shaman.
It's okay. And Deathrite Shaman's fake mana ability isn't actually a mana ability because it has a target.
Yeah.
So you do turn that off. But I think Pithing Needle it's probably more in the sideboard for some other decks because obviously being a mono black deck, you don't get access to things like artifact removal or enchantment removal.
Yeah.
So you have to make do with what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean...
and I think he just has better answers to Deathrite Shaman than a Pithing Needle.
We're seeing Jake bringing in an Abrupt Decay, 2 Abrupt Decays, and his own Toxic Deluge. I can respect that.
Yeah,
I mean,
Deluge against Bitter Blossom seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of... It's a bit funny. You kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision sometimes when you're playing these decks, but Bitter Blossom isn't Vaughn's usual plan, right? I mean, we're usually swinging in, ticking up Liliana, swinging in with the Factory or hitting with Curse Scroll. If that's the case, then Jake could kind of get blown out by thinking that he's on the Bitter Blossom plan when in fact he's on the Mishra's Factory plan.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the exact number of each of the possible win conditions Vaughn's playing in his list. If he's heavy Bitter Blossom version of the deck, then Deluge is obviously a lot better.
Yeah.
Deluge, on the other hand, is just terrible against Curse Scroll and Mishra's Factory.
Yeah,
the card does nothing.
Yeah. See in Vaughn's hand a Pox and a Mazavith is all I saw. Not a Pox, sorry, a Dark Ritual and a Mazavith. Mazavith, as you mentioned before, being a kind of interesting card. Made a whole lot better, admittedly, by the Urborg, but definitely an interesting card by itself.
Yeah, it seems just decent against a lot of various decks. Something like Infect that wants to put all of its buffs on one attacker, having a maze just makes their life a lot harder. Even against something like lands, if you just don't draw the wastelands for them, they can make their token in their end step, which makes Innocent Blood not be able to kill it.
Okay. But
Mazavith stops them from attacking with Merit Large.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it very interesting. I mean, you get a little bit of play against Sneak and Show. I mean, I guess Edict is probably what you want to be casting in that matchup. But
yeah, but I would definitely respect anyone who puts in a Mazavith off a Sneak and Show and Tell.
Yeah, absolutely. This is interesting. We do have the turn 1 Liliana against Jake's 5-card hand. So, we're going for the Bitter Blossom line again.
Yeah, so I think the idea here is you play around days as often as you can with the turn 1 Dark Ritual hands by playing a 2-drop, whatever it may be, into a 1-drop. I definitely personally like the him into Thoughtseize plan, or Thoughtseize into him, because if they have the days, you Thoughtseize it away in that instance.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they're very, very.
But this
very
is just as fine.
Also, the Curse Scroll not being a card that you like, a card that you have to respect as well. Is it 2 mana to activate, if I'm not mistaken? Or
It's
is
3 mana to activate. So
Okay.
one mana to cast, 3 mana to activate, and it shocks something so long as you have 1 card in hand.
Yeah.
You can definitely activate it with more than 1 card in hand, and sometimes you have to, but it's not a play I'm very fond of.
It's rules text being name a card, reveal a card randomly from your hand. If it is a named card, any target takes 2 damage. So that makes it very hard when you have 5 cards in hand. That's for sure.
I believe technically a target opponent reveals the card at random from your hand. So
Okay,
if they have a Leyline of Sanctity in play, you can't shock anything, including them.
The tech.
Yeah, it's
Definitely a tech.
It's pretty good tech against Pox, to be honest.
Okay, sure.
It makes a lot of their cards a lot worse when they can't target you.
Absolutely. And we see
I think you might actually be right about the whole fairy rig behind the Bitter Blossom thing, because if I'm not mistaken, he neglected to sacrifice it to Innocent Blood on the last turn.
All right. Well, we'll be having a private word with Vaughn later on, but yeah, something that you definitely got to be wary of, especially with the new rules changes around making sure your lands are behind and making sure everyone's clear about what the board state is. Like, it's all part of
no sneaky Dryad Arbors
anymore. No sneaky Dryad Arbors anymore. Our reign has finally ended.
All your Avacyn Restored Forests are worthless now.
That's right. We see a huge downturn in the Avacyn Restored Forests. We see Vaughn just continually doing his thing. He's going to take 1. He's going to sacrifice this Bitter Blossom. Actually, not really losing anything, but still gaining a lot by like trading a Bitter Blossom that he's just going to get back for that.
Yeah, when the life totals are this high, trading your fairy for his elemental is going to save you a lot more life in the long run.
Totally fine. Opting to not. I mean, you don't really have a choice at this point. You may as well just let it happen. As we said in a previous video, Pox doesn't really ask. It demands respect. He's putting down Liliana. He doesn't care about a counterspell. He's probably fine if it doesn't resolve, but he's definitely fine if it does resolve. And he wasn't leaving up days at that point, but it didn't really matter because now Liliana's ticking up. Now Jake's taking 1 damage. This is gonna be a hard slog from Jake from here.
Yeah, and the fact that Vaughn's now got no cards in hand and a Liliana on board means that he's just guaranteed to have Curse Scroll always active.
Yes. This is the true synergy of the deck where you're going, play Curse Scroll, tick up Lily, go to you. Like, this is the game actions probably for the rest of the turn, as we see.
Yeah, I mean, he might draw a land at some point, so it might be activate Curse Scroll, play my land, tick up Lily, go to you, just to mix things up a little bit.
He looks like he's going for the Delver, the Pyromancer at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Probably reasonable. Just stop stemming the bleeding from the elemental tokens coming out.
Yeah, I guess he's just worried about Jake drawing like a chain of Ponders and Brainstorms, something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas Deathrite Shaman isn't really going to be able to very easily erase Bitter Blossom.
Yeah. Is it worth just wiping the board, or are we just going to keep it as optimum as possible, dealing 2 damage each time to face? What would you say would be better?
I would definitely pick off the Deathrite Shaman.
Okay.
And then I would consider killing an Insect Elaboration rather than a Delver. But given he has Fatal Push, he can just do both anyway.
Oh my god, this works out so well for him.
Fatal Push was probably an unnecessarily good draw, but a very good draw nonetheless.
He'd even tick down Lily if he so chooses. Oh, he does!
I don't know about -2 Lily for a 1/1 token, but...
Oh, look, here we are. That was a good line. I mean, he's just at the point where he wants to get flawless victory on his opponent, and he can with the amount of wastelands and smallpox that he has. It's definitely possible.
Well, I think to accomplish flawless victory, you're not supposed to take any damage, which Bitter Blossom makes pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I guess it depends exactly what you consider a flawless victory.
Look, I think what Vaughn's doing so far is a pretty good attempt, but I mean, Jake's pushing through. I think this is a perfect time to draw a Toxic Deluge. Unfortunately, We were talking about it before.
I mean,
like,
the problem with drawing Toxic Deluge here is that your opponent still has a Liliana and 5 loyalty, and they still have a Curse Scroll.
yeah.
So you're not dead
yeah.
immediately, but you're still dead pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think Jake agrees with you as he draws the Force of Will and decides to scoop it up with the... I think it was just dead on board as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of fairies.
Yeah, this fairy's really doing the job. Yeah, that was quite the showing from Pox. It was amazing seeing how well it could just answer every single one of Grixis Delver's threats.
Yeah, the deck is very strong against Grixis Delver.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thank you so much, audience, for staying tuned for another video. Please always stay tuned for more, because we'll have more Legacy, Modern, and Highlander content coming soon. So thank you, Philip.
No worries.
And have a great night.